We are all authors of our own stories and participants in the stories of those around us. Villain, hero, or bystander. Together, we construct a narrative which propels us forward, creates conflict, protects us from our perceived dangers, brings stability to an otherwise chaotic world. As we dream ourselves through what we call our lives, the connections we forge with others strengthens our resolve and further cements the foundations on which we build. As we grow and change, support networks begin to dwindle as the dreamers break free to dream again, and everything changes. Return to Monkey Island, the sixth entry in the series first released in October of 1990, features an aging Guybrush Threepwood, traditional hero of the series, regaling his son with tales from his youth as a pirate. Beneath this whimsical premise, we can observe a man, sole bastion of a bygone era, reliving adventures from a time which was already beginning to forget him. Empires rise and fall as new contenders enter into the arena, and old foundations struggle to adapt, trapped beneath the weight of their own structures. In Return to Monkey Island, Guybrush's latest tale shows our aging protagonist continuing in his ever-growingly dubious goal of obtaining the secret of Monkey Island. Guybrush finds himself in a world that remembers the deeds of his past, but cannot remember his role in the story. A fish out of water in his own pond, Guybrush navigates the ruins of his old adventures, where new inhabitants have taken up dwelling. Guybrush is confronted with pirates from a new generation who do not believe in Guybrush, despite acting as little more than a reflection of his former self, occupying his favorite haunts, and pursuing his old dreams, which are also his current dreams. A museum curator houses a collection of artifacts from Guybrush's past adventures. Yet he does not see Guybrush as anything more than a fellow admirer of the days of yore. Guybrush's own narrative is being challenged by a new generation, ignorant of his past deeds, despite his island's small size. Of course, Guybrush's old rival still challenges him as well, LeChuck. With so many dissonant voices picking at the stitching of Guybrush's woven tale, he finds it hard to maintain his own resolve. In the end, Guybrush finds himself working in an amusement park. The tales of piracy simply an elaborate contrivance for visitors. His nemesis, LeChuck, actually an animatronic puppet. Guybrush, worn out and defeated, seems to have forgotten what was real. His fantasies mixing with reality. Dementia is a deceptive disease of the mind which affects many in their older years, as their own narratives begin to fall apart in a world which has left them behind. Which reality is the true Guybrush? As they say, the greatest trick the devil ever played was to convince the world that he did not exist. Has Guybrush simply woken from a dream? Or did the opposing forces his life finally take control. Guybrush conveys this cryptic tale to his son, himself occupying a world separated from Guybrush's. Guybrush desperately tries to share his story with his son, despite knowing that he will never truly understand. The visual style of the Monkey Island games has always taken a variety of forms. In the past, the game has taken the aspect of pixel art, cartoons, and 3D graphics. This entry went with a more stylized form than the past, with a kind of mosaic chibi vector art style. The art services the game's mechanics fine, however, being neither more realistic nor nostalgia, it's really not an upgrade. A point-and-click adventure game requires art which facilitates the distinction between various assets to allow the player to find those pivotal clues and useful objects. In this way, the visual style works. I give the visual style a 7.5 out of 10. The story of the game is similar to that in The Curse of Monkey Island, featuring Guybrush needing to once again go to Monkey Island, starting on the island of Melee and interacting with many of the characters from previous games. In this game, Guybrush travels to a few other islands to perform various deeds as well. As usual, the major strength of this game is in its humor, making the old game format still very entertaining. It's only disappointing that the game has such a depressing end. Otherwise, the adventures of Guybrush are still unique and an interesting game to explore. I especially enjoyed visiting all the different islands. I give the narrative of Return to Monkey Island an 8 out of 10. Return to Monkey Island is a traditional point-and-click adventure game. These days, most games are 3D, and if they are 2D, they'll be something like a side-scroller, platformer, or Zelda-like. Point-and-click adventure games are one of the oldest genres of video game, and a simple extension of the old text-based games like Zork, except with a GUI slapped on for presentation. Basic game mechanic is to collect items around the game world and use them in the correct combinations to proceed forward. If for no other reason, it's nice to play these kind of games as a reminder where modern games are coming from, occupying its own branch on the game genre evolution tree. There really is no modern equivalent, yet it's much more accessible than its text adventure ancestor. Monkey Island games, in particular, are a great entry point to the format due to their silly humor and great writing. The puzzles are always amusing, and sometimes their solutions are just ridiculous. But this game is never too hard. The puzzles will have the player using random bits and bobs collected throughout the game to cheat on math tests, commit horrific acts of destruction to local wildlife, and extending friends' prison sentences in order to coerce them into achieving Guybrush's Machiavellian needs. I give the gameplay a 9 out of 10. The Monkey Island games are a classic 2D gaming experience with a great sense of humor and fun puzzles to solve. This game is for anyone into retro games, point-and-click adventure games, and those that are into the more cartoony type of stories. Don't play this game if you're looking for a lot of action or modern graphics, but if you're in the mood for a good story or a laugh, this one could do the trick. As long as you can put up with the sometimes frustrating puzzles. I give the game an 8.5 out of 10, and a doctor's order for the guys at LucasArts for some reminiscence therapy.